Welcome to the Sky Talk Doc podcast, where we navigate life, relationships, and everything in between with thought-provoking curiosity and a touch of grace. Buckle up, Buttercup. This is a flight you won't forget. Before we get into today's podcast and our amazing guest, I just want to tell you, you're not broken. You're just wired for survival in a world that doesn't always feel safe. Maybe you keep people at a distance because deep down you don't feel very lovable, or maybe you overachieve because a part of you believes you're not enough. But that's not weakness. It's your brain doing its best to protect an old wound. But here's the thing. What protected you then might be sabotaging you now. If you're tired of the same arguments, same spirals, or feeling unseen in your relationships, take the 7 Primal Wounds quiz at 7primalwounds.com to find out what your wound is and stop the same crappy patterns, chaos, and relationship conflict today. Jill Schulman, welcome to the Sky Talk Doc podcast. We're going to talk about some fun stuff that I absolutely love, like a breakthrough leadership today and your organization and all the incredible things you're doing. I had kind of my own keep myself small moment over the past couple of days with my book launch coming out. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on how you're elevating individuals and really helping them break through some of the negative self-talk and things that keep us and quiet and all the things. Can you share with the listeners a little bit about your backstory, how you got where you are, and we'll dive right into the good stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career actually kind of an unconventional way, and that is by serving in the Marine Corps. So like right out of college, I had a full scholarship on the Marine Corps and then started learning about bravery and leadership as a United States Marine, and then made my transition to corporate America. And realized that what makes you successful as a Marine Corps officer are the same things that make you successful as a business leader. So I realized there were so many similarities there. And as I worked within corporate, I fell in love with leadership development and culture and people growing and developing. And that's really what led me to now being a researcher, author, and speaker on the Science of Bravery. With my new book coming out too, we can swap stories on book launch, maybe self-doubt. My book is called The Bravery Effect. Yeah. So it's a little bit about my backstory.
I love it. And bravery is just one of those things, like as you're talking, I'm thinking just being a woman in the Marine Corps took a certain level of bravery, right? Because you're outnumbered by a lot. And it's not a traditional path, I think, for a lot of women. How did you decide to join the Marine Corps, and where did you end up in terms of the work that you did there?
Yeah, the reason I decided, it's like I grew up in a little town in Minnesota, great little town, great loving parents, but I just wanted something more. I just wanted a career with meaning. My parents both had jobs, but the jobs were like things they had to do that they dreaded doing just for a paycheck. And so that was a really great experience for me because I realized I wanted something that was more meaningful. Now, my grandfather also was a United States Marine. He fought in World War II. So that was a little bit of an influence, but I thought, this is my ticket to get my college paid for, to have a meaningful career, to see the world. So I just went for it. And my job in the Marine Corps was actually as one of the first ever female officers in combat engineering, which is basically means that we build stuff and blow things up. So I know. I could actually say that, yes, my job was to blow things up, or my Marines, because I was an officer. Not really a great transferable skill when you're trying to make the transition to the civilian world, but I don't know. I did okay.
I love it. We got to blow things up. I engineered that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can say that they get to destroy things for a purpose and for a reason. I know a lot of people that blow stuff up in their life, but it doesn't pan out too well.
Not in a good way. Not in a good way. Yeah.
So something that your company does is you really work on making the training stick.
Mm.
I'm a huge fan of Atomic Habits. Obviously, James Clear's book is, one of the best in my opinion. How do you do that? How do you teach people to do actionable things that are going to be effectively repeatable on the day in and day out? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the whole key. Like, I sometimes get called by business leaders to come in and do a workshop. And that's the first conversation. I'm like, I don't want to just do a workshop. I want to actually change the behavior in your organization that will lead to results.
Yes.
Is that what you want? And if they say yes, then I have to say, okay, Let's talk about how to do that. What are the things that I need you to do to stress the importance of what we're going to be learning before people come in? How do we help make sure that people focus during the workshop day? And then I really work with leaders to spend time focusing on pull through, how we can take the skills that we've learned in the classroom, maybe their leadership skills, and how do we make them an expectation of all leaders moving forward? And how are the leaders going to hold them accountable? So I use a lot of things with my clients. So I do some coaching of the leaders to make sure they're doing the right things to pull it through. I also do a lot of like micro training, like little reminders, because a lot of times, people learn a lot and then there's that big drop off, so we've just got to leverage the science of learning and develop and do all the things to keep the learning high. But I tell leaders too that you have to have some skin in the game here. There's things that you have to do because what you talk about and what you care about is what's important to the leaders. So I can't do it all, right? We need to be partners. And if the leader's not in, if they're not willing to do it, then I won't work with them because I don't.
It's so funny because the psychotherapist in me, like the first sentence, phrasing, word, thing that I caught from when you started talking right there was accountability. And it's like, if I'm working harder than you, then this isn't going to work, right? And I love that. What are you going to be willing to commit to making significant change? And I feel like this is a part that's really lacking in our society in general right now. There's a lot of, and not a lot of follow throughers, not a lot of doers.
True. And you're right. And it's, you are what you consistently do. Right. And I mean, when you talk about development, this is, I get so excited about this, but when you talk about development, a lot of people think development is, I'm going to go to a course. I'm going to read a book. They think gaining knowledge is development. It is not. Like if you gain knowledge, you have to put the knowledge to work consistently to elevate your skills. So yeah, it's all about making sure that people understand, like if I can teach leaders how to be brave and delivering constructive feedback, right? They have to go out and do that day in and day out to be a better leader. So what I try to do with my clients too is when I go in, we focus a lot on practicing the skill like in the classroom so that they can get some practice. And then we spend a lot of time on what are the things that you're going to do moving forward, because you are what you consistently do. You don't just magically turn into an amazing leader because you spent a day with me. You become an amazing leader because you take the skills that we taught you and you consistently, you're disciplined, you're accountable, or making sure that you're leveraging those skills. That's what leads to leadership greatness.
You're putting your boots on the ground and showing that initiative. And, something that I teach my clients too, because I'm the same way in the work that I do on primal wounding. I say, as a pilot, we go out and we practice emergency landings when there's nothing wrong, because that's what starts getting stored in the amygdala. That's the part you're going to revert to when it matters. And if you've been practicing smooth sailing, you're not going to know how to deal with the crisis or the emergency when it counts. You're not going to be able to put it into practice. And so something I teach my clients all the time is you have to be practicing what you want to emulate when it doesn't matter, which is all throughout the day. And you're going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're going to revert back to old programming, and you have to just recognize it, do something different, have a little grace with yourself, but keep tapping into that grit to keep trying something different.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it just made me think of, some of the things that I wrote about in my book about bravery, The Science of Bravery, which is, we talk about, motivation. We talk about being confident. And what I teach my audiences when I speak, across the country is that sometimes motivation is overrated. So don't just wait until you feel like doing something. Like, what is the right thing for you to do to advance you toward your goals? And sometimes you're not going to feel like it. So don't wait until you're inspired or motivated. Like, the thing that you need to do, the most important thing you need to do each day to make progress toward your goal. So just get after it. And sometimes when you take action, and you gain the forward momentum, that's what creates the motivation as you get the momentum. And another just tip from, and by the way, I'm an academic geek, so I've got to at least cite 3 studies every time I'm on a podcast, but I look at the research of Roy Baumeister, who talks about how we have a limited amount of cognitive resources. He uses the analogy of think of it, we've got like a fully charged battery of motivation, willpower, and using the prefrontal cortex to make those executive decisions. So he says, do the hardest thing early in the day. But what most people do is they just wake up in the morning and they ease into their day and they do the easy stuff first and they keep putting off the hard thing, the thing that they don't want to do, because they're waiting to be just struck by motivation to want to do it.
They're waiting for the coffee to kick in.
Exactly. What happens at the end of the day is they haven't gotten to it. And then they put it off until tomorrow and they put it off to tomorrow. So, sometimes when I talk about self care to audiences, especially the younger generation, because I have a couple of them in my family, I say, you know what self care is? It's not taking the morning off.
Yes, 100%.
It's keeping the promise to yourself and the goals you've set for yourself to do the hard thing first thing in the morning. And I want people to focus on not how good you feel in the morning. I want you to think about how good you're going to feel at the end of the day when you got all of the important things done,
And
right?
then you get to relax.
Yeah, then you get to relax and then it feels so good, right? Yes, exactly. So, even like as I spend so much time like really doing leadership development companies, like how do you lead other people when you can't lead yourself, right? You got to figure out how to lead yourself first.
Gotta be walking the walk. That's right. That's right. As you were talking about the morning thing, I was recalling when I was in a mom's group when my son was very young. A more seasoned mom said to me, I got this piece of wisdom and I pass it on to all the new moms that I meet. She said, make your morning count.
Mm,
You should read the book or play the game or do the tummy time or go for the walk and point out things in nature. Make the morning count because the day is going to get away from you. It's going to get
yeah.
busy. You're going to get stuck in chores and all the things. And I actually took that advice to heart. And I reflect back when my son was young with such gratitude and joy for the
Mm,
special time that we always had in the morning. Even just eating breakfast together and visiting and things like that. It was
mm,
never put off for later, and I know that we
mm.
built such a quality existence together in that time.
Yeah.
And that's the legacy that I leave for that memory of at that time in my
Mhm.
life. And I think that you'll never look back and go, oh, I wish I'd put that off. I wish I hadn't done that thing in the morning. I mean,
So true.
totally. Yeah, that's such
Mhm.
solid advice. So
Yeah.
I want to repeat what she said.
And I love
Yeah.
and I love that we have examples because, I work in corporate America, but sometimes I say the bravest thing you can do is maybe you're going to put your personal relationships first. I'm also someone who's considered a happiness scientist because I studied positive psychology at Penn. I have a master's in positive psychology. And as we think about what are the things that are going to elevate our happiness and well-being, if you are neglecting your relationships in order to pursue goals at work, you're going to be very unbalanced. So as I tell people, like, what are the most important things you need to do in order to accomplish your goals? Think about the personal goals in your relationships. Think about your professional goals. Think of your maybe fitness. They're all very, very important. And you're right. Make the most of your morning. Is that what you said? Make your mornings count. And a great strategy too is you should be thinking about how are you going to have your best morning? You should be thinking about the night before.
Right.
You know, you want to wake up feeling refreshed, in a great mood, being your best self so that you can spend quality time for an hour with your kids. And then you're going to be off to work and you're going to attack the hardest thing on your list there. What are the things you need to do the night before in order to get there? I think so many people stay up late and they're just watching Netflix late into the night or they're scrolling and then they wake up and right. So having a great morning starts the night before.
Intention versus reaction. I love that. And I
Mm,
think that's such an important component too. So as someone who, has the degree in positive psychology and wrote
mm.
the book on bravery, how do you really define it? How do you define
Yeah. Well, bravery is defined by leading researchers in bravery, Cynthia Puri from Clemson. She specifically defines bravery as voluntary action in the presence of fear toward a worthwhile or noble goal, something meaningful. So, in other words, you're scared, but you do it anyway
Yep.
because it matters. And, one thing just to kind of double click on is fear is part of the equation. So many times as I talk to audiences, they're like, being brave is being fearless. You just don't have any fear. I'm like, actually, fear is part of the definition. You should feel uncomfortable. You should feel scared. You were just bringing up that example. You're going to try something new. You will fail. So if you feel a little bit uneasy or you feel scared, that is the definition of bravery. You're taking a step forward anyway, right? Towards something that's meaningful. So that's what bravery is. And, in today's day and age, I think so many times we confuse comfort with happiness. And that's what I became the most excited about as I was doing my research at Penn, is that when people pursue comfort and ease as a path to happiness, it actually creates dis-ease and unhappiness and depression and anxiety. So we need to think about, what do we want in life that is a little scary. It makes us a little nervous because it's outside of our comfort zone, and pursuing that is what leads to the highest levels of success, which is great. But more importantly, what I really care about is I want people to live their best life and have the highest levels of happiness and well-being. So I'm kind of on a mission to help people understand. I want them to do hard things that really matter to them, because those are the things that can lead to the highest levels of happiness and well-being. And I've got all the evidence behind me to support it. So I think we need to change
You know,
the culture a little bit.
I often tell people it's a teeter-totter, and you have to experience the hard things and the pain to
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
appreciate the joy and the happiness.
Mm.
No one without the other. The polarization is where the experience lives, right?
That's so true.
And whether you live in the middle of the teeter totter or on the far ends, if you're both
Mm.
in, you're going to have less of each,
Mm.
less happiness. But if you're on the far ends, you're going to experience a whole lot of tough stuff and a
Mhm.
whole lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I look
Yeah.
at life.
I love that. The teeter-totter. I think I might steal that. But when you go through the really challenging times on the path to accomplish something that's meaningful,
You go way up.
the joy is so great. Like when my journey to earn the title of United States Marine, it was not pretty.
Right.
Oh boy, like it was so hard. I mean, this was 4 years when I was studying at the University of San Diego before I earned my commission, right? I think because it was such a hard journey, which is why accomplishing it made it feel that much more special, right? So I love that teeter-totter example. And even when you're going through the hard things, I want to leave you with one last thing. Even when you're going through the really hard things, there is a way that you can find positive emotion while you're going through the hard things. So instead of just waiting until you achieve the thing to experience positive emotions and to be happy, instead, you've got to generate some of those positive emotions on that hard path going up. So in the Marine Corps, there's a saying that I used to think was somewhat evil, but now I realize the brilliance in it. It wasn't evil, but we would say in the Marine Corps, embrace the suck, right?
Embrace. Yes, I have a friend, Semper Fi, that says that often.
Embrace the suck, embrace the suck. But now I realize from a psychological point of view how brilliant it is, because it's how we reframe dealing with challenges and adversity, right? Embrace this challenge, because this is where I'm going to be able to show what I'm made of. If I can overcome this, what am I going to be on the other side? Let me look at stress and adversity and challenges as stepping stones to greatness. And as you said, failures are just learnings on the way to success. So, I make a lot of mistakes even to this day. And when it happens, I'm like, all right, let's just embrace, means like put your arms around it, bring it in, give it some love, right? And get through it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Huh,
And, to your point, bravery is about having the fear and doing it anyway.
that's
And you're
exactly
never
right.
going to truly experience that reward without kind of going through the suck, the
Hmm.
discomfort,
Yeah.
and all those feelings that come up. What's one piece of advice that you
Hmm.
would give to someone that really wants to create more bravery in their
Hmm.
lives? Like they want to be more braver, but they're just got all this negative self-talk that's telling them they can't do it. What's one piece of
Yeah.
advice you'd give to those folks?
Well, the advice I would give is, so what my research has, and this is in the book, The Bravery Effect, is it really draws upon cognitive psychology. So talking about reframing and mindset, then it draws on behavioral psychology. How do you actually take that step forward on shaky knees because you're scared? And then it draws also from social psychology. So, I mean, if the definition of bravery is taking a step in the presence of fear, it's all about action. But what we can do is we can try to shift our mindset to help us take action. So we need to win sometimes the battle in our mind first. So there's like 4 different strategies that I teach in my workshops with my clients to help them drive business. But I can share one, and this is the most basic. When someone just says like, I just can't, I'm just not a writer. I just can't write. I would just ask them, because they're having that, they're having obviously self-doubt. They have these stories they're telling themselves. And I just use the letter word that is so powerful that comes from Carol Dweck's work at Stanford. And it is the power of yet. You know it. So if someone says like, I just can't write, I just can't write a book. And then I just ask them like, okay, add the word yet. I just can't write a book yet. And what does it do? And I'll just ask her, like, what does that do? It suggests that it is possible. It is possible. So we're just trying to open up the door to optimism, right? When you are pessimistic, and you believe that there's nothing you can do and everything is going wrong and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, that leads to inaction. So we need to create an optimistic point of view. This comes from Marty Seligman, the father of positive psychology. He even wrote the book called Learn Optimism. His research is on optimism. When you believe that it is possible that you can overcome a challenge or you can accomplish something, then that leads you to taking action, right? So we need to believe that it's possible. Now, so sometimes I just start with growth mindset. I also talk a lot about reframing stress and challenges, right? I draw on Aaliyah Crumb's work. She's also from Stanford. We also take a deep dive into how to generate positive emotions. So many people think that emotions just happen to them. Like I just woke up and I'm just feeling down and I'm just in a bad mood, and they're just victims of it. So, this takes time, and I don't have time to do it today, but I teach them that you can recognize the emotions that you're having, but you have the power to generate the emotions that will best serve you and your family and your coworkers and potentially the clients you serve. And so I teach them how you can create the positive emotions that are going to best serve you so that you can do the brave thing. And then we also talk about how to shift self-talk, right? So those are all the things I do a lot on the cognitive side. And that's all in service to so that you can take the brave step forward. So just my little hint there is I just let people know that it's normal to feel the fear. And when you're feeling the nerves, when you're feeling the fear, I want people to reframe it and to tell yourself this is my body preparing me to perform at its best for something important. So when I'm feeling that fear, it's not a sign to run away. Back in our caveman days, fear kept us alive.
Yep.
Right. But today it's social fear. So usually the fear is actually a sign that it's something important. So when you feel the fear, I want you to go, this is probably something important. And when my heart is beating fast, right? When I'm breathing, faster, this is actually my body going, wow, this is important, and giving us those physical resources. So it's just reframing it. And then don't wait until you feel confident or ready, because it's not going to come. Mm-hmm. Just take the step. And when you take the step, confidence follows. So Albert Bandura, researcher, psychologist that really discovered and did all the work in self-efficacy. What he found is that you build confidence by taking a step and proving to yourself that you did it. He did this famous study, you probably know this, with snakes. He had people who had this intense fear of snakes. And he didn't give them pep talks about snakes. He gave them steps, little steps moving toward what they fear. So he showed him a photo of a snake, uncomfortable. And then he showed him a video of snakes. And then he brought a snake into the room, the far end of the room. And then he brought it closer. And eventually they held the snake. So this research, he calls these mastering experiences, is you just take the step forward and it's uncomfortable, but you break it down into little steps and you keep taking the steps forward. And when you take the steps forward, that's what builds confidence. And then you have evidence for yourself. You're like, I have proof. I did that.
I did that thing. That's
I did
right.
that. Yeah. And then my last hint is the first two are all like internal things we have to do to be brave. There's one little thing that makes it easier. So finally something that makes it easier. and that comes from social psychology, which is surround yourself with people that will support you doing the brave thing. Yeah. So you and I are launching books, right? So when I first was writing my book, I had a lot of fear and self-doubt. And I was doing all the cognitive reframing. I'm just trying to write every day, just take a step forward, right? But in the moments where I stumbled and I was really stuck, it was the people I surrounded myself with that helped me keep going. So I call it a brave tribe. So you've got to surround yourself with people who have done the thing that you're seeking to do, that have the experience and the wisdom, that will not let you quit or tap out, but they're going to be the ones to encourage you to keep going. Like Ken Blanchard was one of my mentors. He wrote the foreword in my book. And, I was just stuck. I was just saying, Ken, I try to write and it just, nothing comes out. Right. And I was at this point where I'm like, can I continue? Can I write this book? And he's the one who he did a couple of things. Number one, he goes, oh, same thing happens to me. Same thing happened to you? Like you've got 48 New York Times bestselling books. How is that possible? So the fact that he shared that when he was early in his journey, it happened to him, that makes you feel like, And then he also gave me a hint. He goes, Jill, your passion and your expertise in the subject of bravery is just flowing out so fluidly. I'm like, I know, but it gets stuck in the hands. And he goes, just use dictation. That was the one hint that he unstuck. So the key is there, surround yourself with people who are going to help you do the brave thing. And, Solomon Asch's work on conformity theory says that we are influenced by the behaviors of the people we surround ourselves with. So surround yourself with the people who are doing the hard thing you're seeking to do, and it'll make it easier.
So good. And you definitely got 3 studies in. I was counting. I think we were at 7 by the time.
I know. I'm just a nerd. I'm a geek, and I know I should probably, but I'm like, it's who I am.
Some 600 self-help and medical journals have been read under this umbrella here. So I love it.
Yeah.
I also really love, for a long time, this particular podcast, 7 seasons, 235 episodes.
Congrats.
It used to be called Be You Find Happy. And what it used to preach was that happiness isn't a thing you get in your purse and wear it around for the rest of your life. It's a constant reset. And when people were really promoting a lot of unicorn butterflies and cotton candy. So it's really nice to have this refreshing voice that's coming up and saying, embrace the suck. Like that's part of the happiness factor. That's part of the positive of this whole psychology dynamic that we're learning more about every day. And it's just really nice to have someone with your backstory standing up and talking about the reality of the world we're living in.
Yeah. Yes. I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I think sometimes when people hear positive psychology, or when I go to alumni events or positive psychology conferences, there is a lot of unicorns and butterflies and cotton candy and happyology, right? And there's a lot of different factors, as you know, that can contribute to happiness and well-being, right? And we need to look at the entire spectrum. Like, positive emotions is one of 5 factors that contribute to happiness and well-being. 1 of 5. I mean, there's other things. And I focus on, Marty Seligman came up with PERMA, the 5 factors that contributed to happiness and well-being, the most studied, right? And, P is the positive emotion. So feeling gratitude, joy, all those things. The E is engagement, which is like flow state, just think me high. R is the quality of relationships. It's you spending quality time with your son in the mornings, making sure your mornings count. The M is meaning, making sure you're doing things meaningful. And the A is accomplishment. So in the field of positive psychology, I'm focusing on the A, that's an avenue, accomplishment to achieve higher levels of happiness and well-being. And it doesn't get a lot of play in the positive psychology circles. So I'm here to bring A back. I want to get t-shirts with just an A I wear on my chest saying, doing hard things and accomplishing hard things. We know that is what causes you to look back at your life without regret, with the highest levels of satisfaction, instead of wondering like, oh, I wish I would have.
The woulda, shoulda, coulda. In my book, one of the things I talk about is what will you forget and what will you regret? Because the regret, where you need to put the majority of your effort and attention to. Yeah. The stuff you're going to forget, let it go. Let it go. But the stuff you're going to what if, woulda, shoulda, coulda, that's where your energy needs to travel.
Yes. Get after it. And even if it's hard, you got to go there. And you know what? And when they do exactly what you're saying in your book, I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited to read it.
I'm so excited to continue the combo too, because there's so much more to unpack here. We're just scraping the surface.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to buy a copy of it and probably 2 more copies for my teenage daughters. So I'm already a big fan. But the most exciting part of this is it's not even just accomplishing the goal or doing the hard thing. It's who you become on the journey. So that's what's so the most exciting thing about bravery. And that's why I called my book The Bravery Effect, is you look in the mirror with such pride because you focused on what matters. And you did it even though it was hard. So it's just, the research in bravery is so exciting, and I'm here to bring it back.
The becoming part of bravery, right? The becoming who you are in the journey. So Jungian. So I love that so much. I can't even tell you. So how can people pick up your book? As always, we include links in the show notes, but where can they get it? Where can they learn about the work you're doing? All the things.
Yeah. Well, the Bravery Effect can be purchased anywhere. It's anywhere books are sold at this point, Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, everywhere. But, I'd encourage your listeners, if you go to my website, I've always got some free little goodies for my podcast listeners. And there's a free bravery assessment, which is really fun. It only takes about 5 minutes to take, and it's going to really help you understand are your skill in bravery, because I teach bravery is a skill. It's a skill that you can build over time. And so you're going to get an assessment that tells you like, what is your bravery skill currently? And then you're going to get a free bravery blueprint, which are basically exercises, all evidence-based, to build your bravery so you can start moving toward what you want, and so that you avoid regretting. You avoid the pain of regret. So if you go to my website, you can get all those free resources. If you work in organizations, I also have a book discussion guide that's intended to be used in teams so that your teams can be brave. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I try to help people by giving them a little message every single day that reminds them to be brave, right? Because we need those little reminders. We need those little reminders, so I'll always give a story, give a quote, probably citing way too many studies, but just little things that are going to remind you to go after the hard things, be brave, right? And why it matters and why it's going to make your life so much better.
I love it. And the Sarah Bareilles song came out when my son was young, and he used to love to sing that song about being brave. And it's stuck over the years. And it's kind of like, it's funny how these things that you listen to when your children are young, and then as you're older, the message comes back in your head, or that little children's book that you read frequently, that sort of thing. And I love it because I need to go take the quiz. I'm definitely in a place right now where my fear, my false evidence appearing real, is starting to become very strong as I'm leading up to this. I don't know if you know, but I'm launching off on a 7,000 nautical mile aerial book tour in 2 weeks in an 80-year-old warbird. And I'm going all the way across the nation as part of like this whole wounds to wings kind of adventure story. And so I'm starting to feel that, ooh, can I do this? Should I be doing this? Am I stepping outside of my box that is, I need to get back in? I don't know. So I'm going to take your quiz. I'm going to see where I need to be.
I love it. I love it. What a great way to celebrate your book launch. That's amazing.
That's a nice reframe. Awesome. That it's a celebration. I like that. It's a party. There's a party going on out here.
It's a celebration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why you're doing this is the message in your book is so important, and you want to get it to so many people. And what a wonderful way to celebrate it and bring it to more people. So I love it.
Be brave. I love it. Thank you so much, Jill, for coming on. And I know it's just the very first of many conversations that we'll have, because the listeners are going to be pleading for more, I'm certain. So folks, check out her website. It's in the links. And thank you so much for sharing a little bit of these tips and tricks on how we can all wake up, make our mornings count, embrace the suck, and be a little more brave.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thanks so much for having me. Have a great one.
The views expressed in this podcast aren't necessarily those of the Sky Talk Doc. They're here to challenge your thinking and inspire growth. Until next time, blue skies and tailwinds.